We will continue with the Christmas story. Today we will read the story titled The Most Silent Night. Holly wreaths and red bows swam around in a blurry sea in front of me. I sniffled as a stray tear dropped onto the wrapping paper I had just taped down. I put the gift aside and looked around the room for another to wrap. I could hear the faint sound of my mom's television in the next room. Late night television held limited options, but I'm pretty sure she wasn't paying much attention to it anyway. It was 2:03 a.m. Christmas Eve. About 6 hours since Dad went into the operating room. We hadn't yet told my sister, out of town with her in-laws. What could she do anyway but worry? She knew he wasn't feeling well this week, but didn't know it came to this. A trip to the ER, and emergency surgery. I heard the sound of feet shuffling down the wooden floor of the hallway. My mom peeked her head in the room. Almost done? I know she meant wrapping the Santa gifts for the kids, but I think she also meant the surgery. Why hadn't they called yet? It shouldn't take this long. Yep. Just a few more, I said with a forced smile. Do you think they'll call soon? It's so late. Why is it taking this long? My mom said as she absently put her hands in her robe pockets. I'm sure everything is fine. They said it was complicated, so it's probably just taking longer than expected. They'll call soon. I'm sure you're right, my mom softly said as she made her way back to her room. I sat on the bed in my parents' spare room, and glanced out the window into the darkness. I thought back to Christmases growing up, in a different house and different time. Chocolate chip cookies. That's what sat heavy in my belly as I lay on my back, head under the Christmas tree as it slowly turned around. I was 9, and had spent many an evening like that growing up. Watching the lights move past like shooting stars in slow motion from under the tree. The tree stand had a little motor in each ear. Our tree spun dizzily in the living room. There was a Christmas record playing in the dining room, and I whisper sang along to Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton doing A Christmas to Remember. I had folded a teeny piece of paper and lodged it next to the power button to keep it on, otherwise it wouldn't stay pressed in. A trick my dad thought of. Back then, we didn't buy new things if something went wrong. My dad always found a way to fix them, even if temporarily. He had been working that day, came home, and was off again somewhere. Maybe the grocery store? Mom was cleaning in the kitchen, then went upstairs to put away laundry. My sister was on the phone in her room. I rolled over to my side and looked at the nativity that sat under the tree. I traced at the rough brown mossy pieces glued to the sloping roof with my fingers. Jesus didn't look like a baby in our nativity, but a tiny adult with outstretched hands and a little plastic straw bed. Sort of unsettling. Mary's paint was imprecise and the blue from her dress washed into her face and cheeks. Joseph was surprisingly presentable. Christmas was coming, and a warm excitement filled me like strings of colorful lights wrapped around my veins all throughout my body. It was my absolute favorite time of year. Christmas Eve would mean dinner at my grandmother's house. The smell of various fishes cooked various ways heavy in the air like a seafood fog. And my favorite, the mushrooms. I have no idea how my uncle made them, but I looked forward to them each year. I tried to replicate them a few times, failing each. Mushrooms and soy sauce? Wine? It took a magic to make those mushrooms, and I never quite figured out the spell. Then a noise outside had gotten my attention and I rolled out from under the tree. I looked out the large bay window in the front of my house and saw my dad's car pulled into the driveway. He was home from wherever he'd been. I slid onto the couch and grabbed my book from the table. I had just turned the page when the front door opened. I looked up and saw my dad walking into the foyer, a huge smile on his face. A smile that said he'd been up to something. "Hey Dad," I said and put my book aside. He was walking in slowly, looking around, and holding his coat. This was an odd entrance. "Hey sweetheart," he said as he decided to come into the living room. He didn't sit down, just stood there smiling, fidgeting with his coat. Then I thought I heard a soft sound from somewhere. What was that? I heard it again. A high-pitched cry like a baby cooing. I looked at my dad, puzzled. Then he opened his coat slowly, and from inside the pocket he pulled out the smallest fluffy ball of mewing fur. "A kitten? You have a kitten?" I squealed. "Shh, I didn't tell your mother," he replied, glancing over his shoulder to see if my mom heard and was coming. "You have a secret kitten. What's her name?" "I love her." "Is it a girl?" "It looks like a girl," I said and took the warm fluff into my arms. She mewed again as I snuggled my face into her brown and black fur. She was the tiniest kitten I'd ever seen. "Yes, she's a girl. And she's a runt. Smallest kitten in her litter. When I saw her I knew she had to come home with me. Nearly tore apart my car on the way here. She's a feisty runt," he said. "She's just perfect. I love her, I said as she squirmed out of my arms and darted like a mini cheetah over to the front window. She looked back at us, looking at her, and leapt into the sheer white curtains that adorned the window. She used her claws to scale all the way to the top, then sat on the curtain rod inches from the ceiling, looking down on us with beautiful mischievous yellow eyes. My dad and I looked at each other and laughed. "What should we call her?" he asked. "Since it's almost Christmas, let's call her Holly." And then Holly swung over the curtain rod, dug in her claws, and slid down the curtain, shredding it as she descended to the floor. I gasped. Dad laughed. Holly ran. Holly claws. My dad laughed and showed me his arms, scratched up from his ride home with her. I looked at the shredded curtains and thought about the look my mom's face would have when she saw the destruction and the secret kitten. As I smiled at the thought in the curtains, something caught my eye in the window. Snow. It had just started to snow. A soft, quiet, slowly falling snow. My heart was full, happy, content. I was brought back to my parents' spare room with the sound of my mom's cell ringing. I heard her answer, saying hello? Yes, this is she. It must be the hospital. I looked at my phone. It was 6:08 a.m. I still hadn't slept. Neither of us had. I wondered what this call would mean for this Christmas. They say miracles can happen at Christmas. I squeezed my eyes closed, trying to hear my mom's conversation, but it was silent. I opened my eyes, and looked to the window. It had just started to snow. A soft, quiet, slowly falling snow. My heart was full, happy, content. I smiled. And I knew. God will bless you. We will continue with the Christmas story. Today we will read the story titled Whispers from the Barbershop. In a quaint little town outside of Philadelphia, there lived a talented barber named Samuel Caruso and his loving wife, Courtney. They were inseparable, sharing not only a deep love for each other but also a passion for the art of cutting hair. Their humble barber shop was the heart of the community. Every year, just as spring was ending and schools were letting out, Courtney, Samuel's wife, would have an ice cream social for the children outside of the barbershop. At Halloween, the two would dress up and hand out candy for all the children in the neighborhood who would come by. One year they were scary clowns, another year they were Frankenstein and his bride. Halloween was Sam's favorite time of year. Planning his costumes and making sure the details of them were very precise. Depending on the costume, the two would go to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia to greet the children and hand out snacks, bearing they were allowed. Sometimes Courtney would read a spooky story to the children. During football season, Sam would host watch parties where some of his friends and customers would have fantasy football leagues and Courtney would make snacks for everyone. Every Christmas, she would hold a toy drive and customers would get a discount on their haircut with every donation, and the discounted money would go to the Children's Hospital along with the toys. They frequently went to visit the kids, not being able to have children of their own. Courtney would read stories, and before they left, Sam would read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Christmas was her favorite time of year. Courtney always decorated the shop with strings of lights and ornaments. They came up with an idea for customers to pick a card off of their shop tree, which was written as a small customer appreciation gift. Usually a small shampoo or hair product. At night they would snuggle together by the fireplace and watch the Christmas tree lights sparkle. Samuel was given an Outstanding Citizen Award by the mayor, and Courtney couldn't have been more proud of her husband. They had a celebratory dinner at the local brew pub, Samuel's favorite place for wings. It seemed like the whole town came out to honor him. Each customer over the years had become almost family to the Carusos. They had gone through graduations, weddings, funerals, people getting ready for job interviews. Samuel and Courtney were there through everyone's biggest life milestones. As the years passed, Samuel fell ill. He had a rare form of cancer. Courtney stayed by his side the whole time, helping to make sure he was comfortable. They relived some of their best moments together, laughing and remembering all the good times. Sam's favorite memory was the first year they went to visit Courtney's cousin in Italy, and seeing the Colosseum for the first time was breathtaking. Courtney's favorite memory was when they ate gelato out of a lemon in Sorrento, Italy, and then walking through the ruins of Pompeii together. They had known each other since they were kids, so they were filled with happy memories. Courtney's favorite thing to do to her husband was to rub her face against the side of his face as if they were lions snuggling. He always thought it was a strange gesture, but also found comfort in it towards the end. Despite their best efforts, he succumbed to his ailment. The loss was devastating for Courtney, not just because she mourned her beloved husband but also because she had lost her partner in their beloved trade. Determined to honor Samuel's memory, Courtney decided to take up the scissors and comb. She transformed herself into a skilled barber, taking over the shop her husband had loved so dearly. Her hands, once used to caressing her husband's cheek, now wielded razors and shears with a newfound confidence. Little did she know that Samuel's spirit lingered in the barber shop. He watched over her every move, proud of the way she carried on his legacy. As the years passed, Courtney's reputation as a barber grew, and the shop flourished, just as it did when Samuel was alive. She had a gift for making every customer feel special, just as Samuel had. Samuel's ghost, invisible to all but Courtney, was with her day and night, silently observing her every haircut, her every interaction with customers. He was her silent muse, guiding her hands and whispering words of encouragement in her ear. Though he missed the warmth of her touch, he found solace in the sight of her becoming the accomplished barber he had always known she could be. Courtney, too, felt her husband's presence. Sometimes, she'd catch a fleeting glimpse of him in the mirror, or she'd feel a gentle breeze when there was no wind. She knew he was there, watching over her, and it brought her comfort. One evening, as she was closing the shop, Courtney whispered to the empty room, "Sam, I miss you so much. I wish you were here with me." To her amazement, a soft voice, like a whisper in the wind, replied, "I am here with you, my love, every day and every night. I'm so proud of you, and I'll always be by your side." From that moment on, Courtney found peace in the presence of her beloved husband's ghost. It's like he never left her. Even though she couldn't see him physically, she knew he was with her, hanging the Christmas lights, passing out candy to the children in costumes, reading to the children at the hospital. And even though Santa took over the job of reading to us the night before Christmas, Courtney would, from time to time, would catch a glimpse of Sam and he'd come stand with her and hug her from behind as Santa finished the story. She snuggled up on their couch watching the Christmas tree twinkle as she could almost feel him caressing her hair as she drifted to sleep by the fire.